Take 14. What is a KNN algorithm? The KNN algorithm, its job is to classify a data point. So what does classifying mean in our case? Basically, what's our data point? Our data point is going to be these three variables here. So let's say a user writes a quiz. Now we are going to know how many hints did they use, how much time did they spend, and how many answers did they get correct. So these are the input values. The job of the KNN algorithm is to take these three values and simply return a level 1, 2, or 3, because that's what we want to know. We want to classify them as a level 1, 2, or 3. So that's the job of the KNN algorithm. So the first thing a KNN algorithm needs to do this is a set of trained data. So that's what I have plotted here. Imagine this to be trained data. So a trained set is basically data that is already classified. So for example, these are all dots that are randomly placed in a 3D plot based on the number of correct answers, the amount of time spent, and the hints used. So it's important, if you see the color, you'll see that it's already classified as level 1, 2, or 3. It already has that classification. So the trained set is important to the algorithm because it needs this in order to actually determine what are the k nearest neighbors. So what happens is when a user writes a quiz, we have hints used, we have time spent, we have correct answers. What it will do is it will take this and it will plot itself a dot somewhere amongst the trained set. So let's say we just plot a dot somewhere here. So this is our input. So what we need to do is, or what the algorithm needs to do, is classify this as either level 1, 2, or 3. So how does it do it? What it will do is it will look for the k nearest neighbors. So what's k? K can be any number. So let's just say, for example, we'll let k equals 10. So what it will do is it will take the 10 closest neighbors and it will say, okay, what's the majority of my neighbors? What value are they? So it'll calculate the distance from itself. It'll calculate the distance from itself to every single neighbor, and then it'll order it to determine the 10 closest. Once it determines the 10 closest, let's say, for example, there's 5 reds, 4 blues, and 1 green within its 10 nearest neighbors. It will look at that and say, okay, 5 wins, majority wins. So we are going to classify this point as a red dot, which in this case would be level 3, because the k nearest neighbors is determining that its nearest neighbors, the majority of its nearest neighbors, are of level 3, so this dot should be level 3. Hope that made sense. Okay, hopefully we have already seen the video describing the KNN algorithm and its function within the app. But now I want to go into detail and actually demo and provide a deeper look into what is happening. So the first thing we need to understand is that we have 2 types of quizzes that we offer to, not that we offer, but that we can provide to users. One is what we call an initial assessment. This means for a given subtopic, we don't know what level you are if it's your very first time writing the quiz, which means we give you a static quiz, you do it, and then we take the results that you've completed and we send it to the AI because now we need to classify your difficulty level. For a normal quiz, we would already have an idea of your difficulty level for each question, and we could just like adjust your difficulties, whatever. We don't need to send it to the AI. So the results of a quiz only get sent to the AI when it is considered an initial assessment, and that is the table that we see here. This table is called Initial Assessment Complete, and for each user and for each subtopic, we just have a little flag here that says, did they complete it? If they didn't complete, so if it's false, that means the next quiz they write, which will be their first quiz, will be considered an initial assessment. So let's take a look at what that means. Let's go into statistics, and fractions and percentages is indeed the subtopic ID of 1. So when we click this, it is going to start an initial assessment here. This is the initial assessment. Now, there's nothing really in the UI to indicate to the user that this is an initial assessment, but it's giving specific questions. You don't know it. It is. It's giving specific questions based on the data. So let's just run through this. 0% percentage, 6%, 40. I don't know, that one, that one, and 1 over 24, 2, or 1 over 12. Okay, perfect. So we got 6 out of 6 on the initial assessment. What does that mean? I want to actually pull over this. These are some output lines I've written for the for the application, just so we can see. And this is from the run just now. So, where is it? Initial assessment is complete. Okay, here we are. So, the completed quiz was an initial assessment. Perfect. Now, based on our results, the AI, this is output from the AI algorithm. The predicted difficulty is going to be, with 78% confidence, level 3. So difficulty with multiple is level 3. KNN classified our user at a difficulty level of 3. Setting is complete to true, where user ID is 1, so dog ID is 1. That means we want to say, okay, they completed the initial assessment. We need to change this flag to make sure that their next quiz is not an initial assessment. So if we update this, it should change to true. Perfect. And then what it'll do is it'll take this difficulty level of 3, and for the 6 question types that quiz tested on, we're going to change their difficulty level classification to 3. So if we just pull the app back up here, get rid of this, if we run this again, let's run another quiz for fractions and percentages. This will not be an initial assessment because of this flag now. And that means it will give us new questions. So you'll see these are difficulty 3 questions. So which fraction, which percentage, okay, I'm not going to worry about answering the questions right, but basically these are now level 3 difficulty questions because that is what the AI classified the user as. So if we go through this entire quiz, all the questions should be difficulty level 3. And by the way, I want to mention that the difficulty levels of the questions have been verified by our domain expert in that they make sense. What we aimed for was level 1 is the most basic you can get, level 2 is approximately in the center, and level 3 is difficult enough that if you answer it correctly consistently, you are good enough at that subtopic to move on, or at that question to move on. Please choose an answer. Okay. I'm just clicking here. So you can see these questions are all different from the initial assessment because the initial assessment gave a static difficulty, whereas, Okay, now let's look at some more of the output. What happened here? Let me pull the output over 1 second. Okay, you'll see last time it said initial assessment complete. This time it said a normal quiz complete. Oh, sorry, up here. The quiz complete was not an initial assessment. Normal quiz complete, updating question type 1 to the derived difficulty of 3. So derived difficulty means the AI didn't determine this. We did. We brought you down a difficulty level if you got it wrong. So you'll see for 2 out of the 6 questions, we got it right, which means we got to stay at the max difficulty here. But for the other 4 questions we got wrong, we were decreased in difficulty here, down to level 2, because we started at all level 3. And so if we run another quiz, which I'm not going to do, it would reflect these new difficulty levels on a per question basis. And it will give different difficulty levels for each of those questions. That's all, I think.